The story of Elijah is fascinating and appears in both the Old and New Testaments. He is one of the most powerful and well-known prophets in Israel, and his life is filled with miraculous events and moments of great drama. Let's take a look at what the Bible says about him. In the Old Testament, Elijah is one of the most powerful and prominent prophets of Israel. His story is mainly found in the first book of Kings, 1 Kings 17 to 19, 21, and 2 Kings 1 to 2. Here's a summary. 1. Call and prophecy against Ahab. Elijah suddenly appears on the biblical scene during the reign of King Ahab of Israel, who ruled in Samaria. Ahab was a very wicked king, married to Jezebel, who promoted the worship of Baal, a pagan god. In response to the idolatry of the people, Elijah predicted a drought that would last for several years as divine punishment. The drought became a powerful sign of God's judgment on Israel. 2. Elijah on Mount Carmel. One of the most well-known episodes in Elijah's life is his confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18. Elijah challenged the 450 prophets of Baal to a test to prove who the true God was. Both groups prepared a sacrifice, and the true God would be the one who sent fire from heaven to consume the offering. After the prophets of Baal failed, Elijah prayed, and God sent fire from heaven that consumed his sacrifice, leading the people to recognize the God of Israel as the only true God. 3. Flight and encounter with God on Mount Horeb. After the victory on Mount Carmel, Elijah fled into the wilderness out of fear for his life, as Jezebel threatened to kill him. There, Elijah experienced a spiritual crisis, feeling defeated and asking God to take his life. However, God sustained him with food and sent him to Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, where Elijah had a profound experience with God. It was not in a strong wind, earthquake, or fire, but in a gentle whisper that Elijah heard the voice of God, 1 Kings 19. 4. Elijah's departure. Elijah did not die in the conventional way. In 2 Kings 2, Elijah was taken to heaven in a whirlwind while traveling with his disciple Elisha. Before he left, Elijah passed on his prophetic mantle to Elisha, marking the continuation of his mission. In the New Testament, Elijah remains an important figure. 1. In the Gospels. In the Gospels, Elijah is mentioned several times. When Jesus asks his disciples who they believe he is, Peter replies that Jesus is the Messiah. However, the disciples also wondered if Jesus was the reincarnated Elijah due to the remarkable similarity in his miracles and the way both he and Elijah confronted religious corruption. In Matthew 17 verses 1 to 13 and Mark 9 verses 2 to 13, Elijah appears during the transfiguration of Jesus, where Jesus is transformed and meets Moses and Elijah. This is seen as a testimony that Elijah, along with Moses, represents the law and the prophets, and that Jesus fulfills both. 2. Elijah and John the Baptist. In Matthew 11 verse 14 and Luke 1 verse 17, it is mentioned that John the Baptist fulfilled the role of Elijah in a spiritual sense, preparing the way for the Messiah. Jesus even stated that John the Baptist was the Elijah who was to come, referring to the prophecy in Malachi 4 verses 5 to 6, which said that Elijah would return before the coming of the Messiah. Summary. Elijah was a prophet who challenged idolatry, performed miracles, and had a deep relationship with God. His story is one of both judgment and hope, showing that God acts powerfully in times of crisis. In the New Testament, Elijah is linked to the ministry of Jesus and to the figure of John the Baptist, fulfilling the prophecy of his return as the forerunner of the Messiah.